It's all covered in today's China Truths.
A deadly storm is quietly spreading in China, but you won't see it on state-run news. Avian flu that spreads to humans, also known as human bird flu, has recently broken out in many provinces across mainland China. Chicken, duck, and goose farms are suffering terrible losses. Thousands, even tens of thousands of birds die overnight, along with widespread swine fever. But what's even more worrying is that information about the disease is almost completely blocked. State media rarely mentions it, and those who dare to speak out risk being controlled. Is China hiding a global health tragedy? Could the virus have mutated, putting humans at risk of a new pandemic? All will be revealed in today's program. Human avian influenza has broken out in many areas of China. On March 10th, a Chinese social media celebrity named Li Mingyu shared with his fans the latest information he had about human avian influenza. According to him, at least 4 provinces, including Anhui, Shandong, Guangdong, and Guangxi, are currently experiencing outbreaks. In particular, the outbreak in Anhui has spread widely, creating a large gap in Shandong. Quarantine areas have been set up extensively. Li continued, stating that in Shenzhen, Guangdong, not only have COVID-19 and influenza A been reported, but now human avian influenza has also begun to appear. He emphasized that people in this area have diverse eating habits, which has contributed to the strong spread of avian influenza. On some days, the death toll reaches more than a dozen people. Li Mingyu also stressed that these events are happening silently, without public awareness, and no one will openly announce them. Another epidemic prevention officer, using the pseudonym Li Hua, also confirmed on March 10th that human avian influenza has broken out in many areas of China, including Shenzhen, which has been severely affected. Quarantine areas have been fully set up. According to his description, the current quarantine areas consist of single rooms with meals and medicine delivered by robots, and doctors directly monitoring and dispensing medication. The No. 4 People's Hospital of Nanning City, Guangxi, recently issued a warning that on December 25, 2024, they received a patient with critical H5N1 avian influenza, severe pneumonia, grade 1 respiratory failure, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and sepsis. Previously, the Epoch Times reported that avian influenza had broken out seriously in Shaanxi and Wuhan just before the Lunar New Year. Now, some videos on social media also indirectly confirm that Wuhan experienced an outbreak of human avian influenza on January 8, 2025. Epidemic prevention staff wearing big white protective suits took environmental samples around the infected areas in Wuhan at night. This scene was recorded by local residents and posted online. In the online comments, a netizen in Jiangsu asked, "Is the Center for Disease Control just an executive agency?" Another person in Guangxi was indignant. "Is the epidemic just spreading quietly like this?" Meanwhile, Mr. Wang in Shanghai commented, "It's always like this in this country. Only when it can no longer be hidden will it be announced," followed by mass culls. By then, the farmers will have already sold all the sick chickens to the market. In addition, a newly leaked video showed that on March 11th, epidemic prevention personnel went door to door in residential areas to disinfect, causing netizens to discuss and speculate. On February 25th, the Chinese government announced a comprehensive emergency response plan for unexpected incidents. One of the bird flu whistleblowers in China said that localities are actively carrying out epidemic prevention drills, which are continuously being promoted. The official website of the Yantai city government also called on people to stay away from live poultry and birds to reduce the risk of infection with the severe acute respiratory syndrome caused by the influenza A virus, H5N1 avian influenza. He also said that currently, a large number of poultry birds and more than 100 species of mammals are infected with H5N1 avian influenza globally at a high frequency. The mortality rate of animals is up to 100%, while humans still have no specific medicine to prevent or treat it. Moreover, the virus is constantly mutating, increasing the risk of human infection. In this context, people should limit contact with live poultry, avoid crowded places, and use masks properly to protect themselves. At the same time, he also attached the emergency response plan for people infected with avian influenza, released by Guangdong Province on March 9th, which consists of a total of 34 pages. This document details the process of collecting avian influenza virus samples and the requirements for secondary protection, including wearing regular protective clothing, a work hat, an additional layer of protective clothing, goggles and a mask, rubber gloves, and shoe covers. When slaughtering and handling poultry, it is necessary to wear specialized rubber gloves and rubber boots. After handling the disease each time, hands must be washed and disinfected immediately. In addition to the secondary protection requirements, medical staff and sample collectors should replace their masks and goggles with full-face respirators. Persons who should be sampled include patients with pneumonia of unknown cause, suspected cases of avian influenza, including pending cases, clinically diagnosed cases, and confirmed cases, and close contacts of patients with abnormal clinical manifestations such as fever, as well as other cases where the possibility of avian influenza infection should be ruled out. On March 12th, Li Hua also told a reporter from the Epoch Times that the current bird flu outbreak in China is mainly the H5N1 strain. In addition, there is also H7N9. Both H5N1 and H7N9 strains have high mortality rates, with H5 having a higher mortality rate than H7. According to the World Health Organization, a farmer in Hebei posted a video online sharing that 900 geese on her farm died overnight from bird flu. She expressed her despair because there was no cure. In the comments, she also said that she used to raise pigs, but her pigs also died from the disease. On February 23rd, a biotechnology company in Shandong posted an important notice on its social media account warning all goose farmers to pay attention. Veterinary medicine sales staff, animal feed sales staff, and unauthorized personnel are absolutely not allowed to enter the breeding area. The company emphasized that the bird flu outbreak is very serious and cannot be ignored. The accompanying video warned that bird flu has spread throughout Shandong, Anhui, and Weifang, causing widespread damage. People are advised to take preventive measures seriously. On February 24th, a livestock support technician in Henan named Li Li also posted a video confirming that the avian influenza situation is extremely serious. Since before the Lunar New Year, tens of thousands of livestock farming households have lost everything, and some large farms have suffered losses of hundreds of thousands of yuan. In response to the increasingly serious situation of highly pathogenic avian influenza, the Chinese government has issued a mandatory vaccination plan for animal disease prevention in 2025. In the list of diseases that require mandatory vaccination, highly pathogenic avian influenza is at the top. The policy requires all poultry raised in all provinces and cities, including chickens, ducks, geese, pigeons, and quail, to be vaccinated against the H5 and H7 strains of highly pathogenic avian influenza viruses. However, while this could ensure poultry supplies and save the livestock industry, if the virus began to spread widely from person to person, the consequences would be extremely serious. At the same time, swine fever also broke out in many places across mainland China. On March 20th, the Epoch Times reported cases with symptoms including low temperature, loss of appetite, and rapid death. The Animal Testing Center found that it was not African swine fever, but the cause remained unclear. Some experts suspect that the pigs may have been infected with H5N1 avian influenza. According to a video by Ms. Zhu, a farmer in Shandong, the current epidemic has unusual signs. The pigs' skin did not turn purple, they did not cough or wheeze, but they died very quickly. By the time they were discovered, it was too late to intervene. Similar situations have been reported in Taizhou and Taixing in Jiangsu. Another farmer in Henan, Mr. Gu, also described the horrifying scene in a video on March 17th. He warned that recently, many pig farmers in Henan, Hebei, and Shandong have reported that pigs suddenly stopped eating without any obvious signs of illness. Whether they were sows, piglets, or fattening pigs, all were susceptible to infection and died very quickly. When the pigs were autopsied, their lungs were found to have black spots, lumps, and nodular necrosis, while other organs, such as the spleen, appeared normal. Major livestock companies have also issued warnings about this serious situation. Dr. Lin Xiaoxu, an American virologist and former director of the virology laboratory at the U.S. Army Research Institute, said that the unknown swine fever outbreak in China might be related to H5N1 bird flu. There have been previous reports of H5N1 infecting pigs, most likely from wild birds. However, there is evidence that the virus can also be transmitted between pigs, as observed in the 2009 outbreak in Indonesia. If H5N1 avian influenza has indeed spread to pigs in China, the risk of a large-scale outbreak is high. However, the Chinese government has made very little mention of avian influenza in humans, leading to public concern about the potential risks of the disease.
Beijing acknowledges weak domestic demand, while the public says people truly have no money. Amid an economic downturn in China and persistently weak domestic demand, even China's state media has acknowledged that the economy faces 4 significant challenges, including lackluster domestic demand. Many voices among the Chinese public assert that people genuinely have no money. On November 11, China's official newspaper, People's Daily, published a commentary acknowledging 4 major challenges facing the current Chinese economy: increasing pressures to stabilize foreign trade and investments, weak domestic demand with limited consumer spending ability and intent, difficulties in stabilizing investments, with private investments needing further stimulation, and business challenges, including sluggish sales, declining profits, and weakened market expectations. Additionally, many areas face financial risks, with some locales struggling with debt restructuring and grassroots financial constraints. Employment pressure is rising for university graduates and other young groups, while urban residents' income growth is slowing. In October, China's CPI rose by 0.3% year-on-year, down from 0.4% in September, marking the lowest level since June and below the 0.4% rise predicted by Reuters. Excluding volatile food and fuel prices, core inflation rose by 0.2% in October. Despite the government's launch of a big policy package in late September to stimulate the economy, inflation remains close to zero, further indicating weak domestic demand. On social media, numerous netizens express that people now genuinely have no money, noting several typical phenomena. First, food retail struggles. Business in food shops is increasingly difficult. Shopping centers that were once bustling now resemble ghost towns, sometimes with more staff than customers. Notably, many stores are frequently listing prime retail spaces for sublease every 3 or 4 months. People's wallets are truly empty, and those with even a little money are holding on to it tightly, avoiding spending. Rising prices are outpacing wages, while housing and car loans add immense financial pressure. With e-commerce also growing, food retail faces particularly tough times. Second, young people not having children. Many young people are not unwilling but simply unable to afford to have children. Children are often seen as money guzzlers, with costs spanning from diapers and formula to school district housing and tutoring classes, all of which require significant funds. Amidst pay cuts and a challenging job market, even basic survival is difficult, making the thought of having children daunting. This contributes to an aging population and future labor shortages, a consequence society may be unable to bear. Third, saving money and reducing consumption. People are now saving money zealously and lowering their desire to consume. Previously carefree with spending, they are now budgeting carefully, making thrift a new trend. Weekend dining out has given way to staying home and watching shows, driven by future uncertainty. If everyone stops spending, how can the economy grow? Without economic growth, where will incomes come from? And without incomes, What will people spend on? This is a very troubling vicious cycle. These phenomena reflect a range of issues, from social wealth disparity to structural economic imbalances, highlighting deep-rooted problems in China's economy. As ordinary people, it's crucial to bolster personal risk resilience because, in this country, the only reliable thing is oneself. The blogger Universe 10 recently remarked, "Where's the public's money gone?" He pointed out that most families, to buy a home, have drained lifelong savings, putting everything into the real estate market, even using grandparents' pensions to cover down payments. Yet, many cities are now dotted with unfinished developments comprising over 100 buildings, tying up large amounts of capital. Many developers are heavily indebted, with vast sums bound in real estate, leaving these homeowners effectively penniless, their funds entirely locked up in property. For years, authorities have been pushing for consumption growth and increased domestic demand. Why hasn't it materialized? The key is that people's money is tied up in real estate. Some say real estate is the biggest black hand, which seems to hold some truth. He continued, there are also many vacant developments that remain unsold. Meanwhile, people who bought homes often cannot receive them. Mortgage defaults, and even collective defaults, are becoming more frequent. This is not an abstract idea, it is a real social issue. Properties in large cities can cost millions, even tens of millions, while in smaller cities, they may cost hundreds of thousands. As unemployment grows and the wave of layoffs spreads nationwide, families have invested nearly all their capital into real estate. Meanwhile, inventories and listings for second-hand properties are surging, making it difficult to sell properties. The inability to liquidate real estate is becoming the biggest problem for the public. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.